Many of you guys who've been watching me for a long time probably know that I used to be a bit of a reactionary. Before I was a reactionary, I was a pretty progressive liberal. I thought at least that I was. I was in favor of, like, rights for gay people. I didn't really know what a trans person was at the time. I was 17, never met a trans person. Women's rights, all that stuff. But I ended up getting radicalized to becoming I flirted with the JQ. Let's just say I went down the rabbit hole, okay? And that's not really important. Not so much. But I will say that before this happened, I really respected, and I think this is true of most people, really respected somebody who's capable of defending their ideas, defending their worldview, and defending their arguments, whether it be through persuasive rhetoric, through appealing to data and facts. I thought that if somebody could make a good enough case for their worldview, that's a worldview worth giving attention to. And I think most people would agree with this. I would hope, at least. And the problem was, back when I was 17 years old, back in 2016, if you were a somewhat politically interested, or even if you weren't politically interested, because this could pull you in even if you were apolitical, but if you were a somewhat politically interested, left-leaning person, what did you have to watch? I think Chapo Trap House might have existed. There was Kyle Kalinske with the progressive voice and whatnot. But if you were like a edgy, like teenage, politically interested person, what do you have to watch? Who's making content that appeals to you, that you can both learn from and find entertainment in, and have that that thirst for blood sports and edginess quenched? Yeah, Chapo started in 2016, so it wouldn't have been big enough to pull in many people back then. There wasn't really anything for me at the time, and for most people. I remember stumbling across Sargon for the first time, and Andy Worski, and Thunderfoot, and all of these, like, at least Thunderfoot isn't anymore, but like these right-wing alt-right chuds or reactionary chuds, and they would be like, the left is too afraid to debate us because they know they're too weak and afraid. Like that shit. They're too weak to defend their positions. I remember one of the pinnacle claims that surrounded the reactionary YouTubers I would watch that radicalized me and millions of other people my age to the right was the left is too afraid to debate. And they know they're wrong. And then Destiny happened. Destiny was like the first Existential Baguette, thank you for contributing to the white genocide. I appreciate it, my friend. I really, really do. I love you. So, Destiny was probably one of the first people to just bust out on the political scene and change shit up massively. Because we had this massive community. I don't know if you guys remember, but in 2016 and 2017, the anti-SJW community was just a monolith. Like an unstoppable, fairly tight-knit fucking monolith. And Destiny came along, and listen, I've got plenty of problems with Destiny. I don't want to suck him off too much, but I gotta give credit where credit is due. Destiny came out onto the debate stage of, like, online blood sports, and he started ripping apart these massive figures. Andy Worski, no bullshit, Sargon, JF, I believe he debated JF, just all these people. And he brought in this aggressive, boisterous, loud, edgy persona that wasn't willing to get down and dirty, get their fucking hands dirty, and start ripping apart these creators that had built a fucking monolithic empire of reactionary politics that was just sucking in. Lauren Southern as well. That was a fucking massacre, you're right. That was just sucking in young people. Destiny started tearing that apart. Part of that was me. I got pulled out by that. So I guess in a way I'm a bit biased on this because I am somebody who was pulled out of this rabbit hole by Destiny. But Destiny almost single-handedly demolished the right-wing rabbit hole. It still exists, but like the monolith that existed in 2016 and 2017. I mean, do any of you guys watching right now remember that? Like how unavoidable it was? Like these people were all friends too. Like it was a pretty straightforward pipeline from Chris Ray Gun to fucking Andy Worski race realism. That's how many layers. Like Chris is friends with Bunty King and shouts out Bunty King, and Bunty King hangs out with Andy Worski and their buddies. That is how quick the rabbit hole was back in 2016. Nowadays, it's like, okay, maybe you get into like some like the quartering, like you stumble across the quartering video, and then you start watching No Bullshit, and then you start watching Sargon of Akkad. Like it's a bit more obscure now because there's a lot more schisms than there used to be, though clearly not enough. Yeah, H-Bomber, everybody contributed, okay? There's a left-wing rabbit hole of our own that we're trying to make, and I'll get to that in a minute. Don't weird champ me before we even get finished with my tangent, okay? So the Destiny came out of nowhere as the guy who was willing to debate when these figures prop themselves up as being these intellectual powerhouses that the left was too scared to debate. And then now I'm not going to pretend like this is a huge issue on the left. I think it is worth acknowledging. There is sort of like within the left, like a revolt happening against the white debate bro. The white guy pseudo-intellectual debate bro. Now this is pretty obviously a subtweet from Lottie Blix here. They're talking about Destiny. They're talking about Vosh. And if they're aware of me, they're probably referring to me. Because there's actually not that many white debate bros. I think there's like a few. Like there's Destiny, there's Vosh, there's me, there's, I guess, Chud Logic. I think Kyle Kalinske might do debates. I think there's like a few others, but there's actually not a lot of white debate bros. The ones of us that do exist grow quite a bit because we have like a yeah, we're gonna have a discussion about it with Chud Logic. Don't worry. I feel like the white debate bros that do exist have a pretty big platform, but there's not a lot of there's not very many of us. Yeah, so Lottie Blix tweeted, aren't y'all tired of the same white guy pseudo-intellectual, I don't know where this is coming from, debate bro? They are literally all the same. They contribute literally nothing of value, and they are fucking boring. Do you guys want to hear something fucking hilarious? I can prove that this claim that they contribute literally nothing of value wrong instantly. Have you guys seen the absolute meltdown Styx, Hex, and Hammer has been having on Twitter because Vosh was like, lol, debate me. Are you too scared? And he's having like a meltdown, like, leftist debaters are grifters. Hold on, let's go to his YouTube channel because he made a whole video about it where he like vague tweets Vosh. It's actually really funny because he knows. Can he not? Wait, where is his, on Styx, Hex, and Hammer 666. Where's your YouTube? Is he like banned off of YouTube or something? No, here it is. Yeah, look how much of a pussy this guy is. Where is it? God, he uploads like 6 videos a Jesus Christ, he uploads so much content. He doesn't get very good viewership though, for his size, so that's nice. Why I don't bother debating the grift left, Breadtube crowd, and you shouldn't either. Okay. That's just one YouTuber, right? That's just one Nazi fascist YouTuber, right? Is it worth debating Breadtube? 5 hours ago, 51,000 views from Sargon of Akkad, where he explains that you shouldn't debate Breadtube. Guys, they're afraid of the leftist debate bro. The reactionaries are legit afraid of like people like me, Destiny, and Vosh. Maybe less me, because I don't have as big of a platform. I'm not like a fucking god tier debater. The quivering, we should say, will challenge people on Twitter and say people are too afraid to debate him, and then back out of a debate with Destiny because he's afraid. The white debate bro are absolutely doing work for the left. Like, even outside of, like, the argument they're bringing people to the left and they're, like, de-radicalizing people, even if we just throw away that argument, which I don't think we should, because I think it's completely valid, even if we ignore that entirely, the evidence is literally right here on the table. People like Sargon, people like Akkad Daily, people like, just these reactionaries in general, are afraid to debate. They propped up their entire platform on the left is too afraid to debate back when there was nobody to debate. Do you guys remember when, I misspelled Riley Dennis's name so bad, I'm sorry. Do you guys remember when all of reactionary YouTube, or all of, like, leftist YouTube, or, like, progressive YouTube, at least in, like, trans spaces, was dunking on Riley Dennis and Milo Stewart? These fucking poor... I feel so fucking bad for these two. The amount of harassment... Even still! 1 month ago, Milo Stewart uploaded a video about just a fucking wellness assessment during quarantine, and they got mass disliked. All of their videos get fucking dislike bombed. Is this what... and this is not Milo Stewart's fault. Milo Stewart is a fucking, like, just an absolute angel from everything that I've seen of them. And they are still getting just railed with hate and attacks from reactionary YouTubers from back in the day. This is not their fault. I'm pretty sure their pronoun... Yeah, they, them. Yes, I guessed their pronouns correctly. This is not their fault. It's not. But there was a time when this content was all that was seen of, like, left-wing creators, like far left-wing creators online, and it was so easy to pick apart and to bully. Like, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with Milo Stewart's content from what I've seen. Their content's fine, their content's great, but it is portrayed in a way that is that makes it very, very easy to bully them and attack them with ad homs and argument and what's the word I'm looking for? Fallacious? Just fallistic, I guess. Felonious arguments. Fallacious. Fallacious is the word I'm looking for. Thank you, guys. I love you, chat. It was really easy to attack them with fallacious arguments. Yeah, I used to think Milo and Riley were cringe. Okay, maybe Riley is still kind of cringe. So, yeah, you guys get the idea. When this was all that like, left YouTube was, there was no chance for us. There was no chance. And then Destiny came along. And Destiny started tearing down these alt-right figures and created an audience that was willing to watch someone like Contra Points. Now, I'm not taking any... I don't want to take any credit from Contra Points whatsoever. Contra, her videos, her content speaks for itself, alright? Without Destiny, I'm sure Contra Points would be doing just fine, because the way in which she formats her arguments and makes her videos, it's almost impossible to respond to and, like, be negative without sounding like you're fucking insane. So I'm not trying to take any credit away from Contra Points, but you cannot make the case that back in 2016 and 2017, or it would have been 2017, when Destiny had his first discussion with Contra Points, back 2 years ago, that Destiny didn't platform Contra back when she had much less of an ability to grow and create an audience for her. Destiny de-radicalized in 2017 a shit ton of, like, white edgy teen boys who then came across Contra Points because he platformed her, and then they started subbing to her and watching her content, and that further pulled them away. Now, Contra Points has her fingers already in, like, the trans community on YouTube. Like, if you're a trans person and you watch Contra Points, that might de-radicalize you from being, like, a Blair White fan. Like, that's a whole other rabbit hole. But Destiny definitely carved out a space for people like Contra, NH Bomber Guy, and Philosophy Tube. And I want to make it very, very fucking clear. Yeah, she just hit 900k. And Philosophy Tube, like, there's a shit ton of other Breadtubers, don't get me wrong. But, like, people like me, people like Vosh, I guess me and Vosh would probably have been fine. People like PhilosophyTube and Contra Points would not be doing as well as they are now without the edgy debate bros tearing down the monolith of reactionary YouTube. And it is fantastic. It is fucking awesome that Breadtube, that Leftube, is blowing up as much as it is now. I'm thrilled about this. This is fucking awesome. I love this. I when I first got into Breadtube, guys, so it was over a year ago now, but when I first got into Breadtube, I thought it was going to be like how the reactionary anti-SJW community was back in the day. Do you guys remember how it was, where everybody was friends? How there was like 1 degree of separation between, or literally no degrees of separation between like a sock dem with some reactionary tendencies at the time, like Shoe on Head, and a literal white nationalist like Lauren Southern. There was literally a direct pipeline. Do you remember how like fucking tight knit that shit was back in the day? Like everybody was buds for the most part. I thought it was going to be like that, but with Breadtube, no. No, God was I naive. What God was 18-year-old pig puncher going into Breadtube, naive as fuck. I was so off base. I was like 20k subs before I even like graced the presence of Contra Points. There is not a lot of friendship going on. I don't think like the big ones like PhilosophyTube and Contra Points and H Bomber Guy even talk that much behind the scenes. Like there is so much fracture and division and arguments and all of that. Yeah, I know that, Vez. You've been watching me for a long ass time. There is so much divisiveness between, or division in general between Breadtubers that just never existed for reactionary YouTube. The pipeline for, like, being, like, an edgelord Destiny fan to being an ooh-woo trans rights, like, Contra Points fan isn't quite as straightforward as it was to go from, like, a fairly apolitical Shoe on Head fan in 2016 to a full-on alt-right, neo-Nazi or like JQer in 2017, like just stumbling down that rabbit hole. We just don't have that yet. And we're trying really hard. I feel like people like me and Vosh and Destiny are really good entrances to the rabbit hole. And then other people in this community, once we've sort of brought them over, can pull them further. But we have people like Lottie Blix claiming that there's a problem with debate bros. And this isn't nothing. It's like there is like an actual Angie Speaks, who's been posting absorbent amounts of cringe on Twitter. She's been cringe posting about debate bros as well. Let's see, where can we find it? Yeah, she actually quote tweeted me. I just did, I think, a fairly innocuous tweet, like asking my followers, genuinely curious, how many of you who are now liberals or leftists used to be centrists or reactionaries, but were first pulled out of the rabbit hole by edgy lefties and debate bros, as opposed to soft lefties who aren't edgy and don't do blood sports type stuff? Mind you, this was a bad tweet. Feel My Puddle, you are a fucking idiot. This is not a bad tweet in any way. Tell me why it's a bad tweet, Feel My Puddle. I'm actually curious, because I feel like I preface this. I even wanted to add, here. For examples of edgy lefties, Destiny, Vosh, Chapo, Trap House. Examples of soft lefties, Lumiru, PhilosophyTube, and Thought Slime. How is this like a cringe tweet, Feel My Puddle? I'm very curious. Are you just saying it's cringe, or do you have a reason? Are you just, like, jumping on the bandwagon? I'm very curious. Oh yeah, Angie is super wrong. We'll get into that in a minute. Yeah, all tweets are bad tweets, to be fair. No answer? Didn't think so. Yeah, so literally all I was asking, because I was genuinely curious, was to see how many people who follow me that were once reactionaries were de-radicalized by, like, edgy debate bros as opposed to, like, soft lefties. Now, I should clarify, I have literally no problem with soft lefties. I love going into Lumiru's stream and just wrapping myself in a blanket, getting some hot chalky, and just relaxing and taking a load off and having a good time. There is a shit ton of utility and a shit ton of good that is done by people like Lumiru and the soft lefties. When I say soft lefties, That is not in any way pejorative. I'm not using that in a pejorative way. I really want to make that extremely, extremely clear. But I do think there is most certainly, as you can see from this poll, I definitely think that there is value in the edgy debate bros. And the argument they are doing, as Lottie Blick said, nothing for the left, is unbelievably stupid. So Angie Speaks quote tweeted me here. I've been beefing with Angie Speaks for a while lately. I think she's been like ridiculously like cringe lately. The burn your bus shit, where she got blown the fuck out on that burn your bus panel, and then now like the anti-debate bro stuff is actually unbelievably annoying. This is an incredibly absurd question. Most people are brought to the left by their material conditions, not because of someone's affection or aesthetic on the internet. The war of aesthetics is probably the silliest shit I've seen in ages. Yeah, guess what? I was not referring to your average person who gets radicalized to the left because of their material conditions. Yeah, I don't think that, Angie is class reductionist. I don't know enough about them to say that, but maybe. I mean, they might be leaning in that direction. Like, they care more about class than they do about the rights of minorities. No, Sean is not the best lefty. Sean is running your bust. I think I made it very clear here that I meant people who, people who were de-radicalized and were once reactionaries. Like, I feel like I made it very clear of what I was asking here in my tweet. This just seems like a desire to, like, attack, like, debate bros. I don't know. I think it's so fucking cancer. I feel like the left doesn't want to win, or it doesn't deserve to win. Can we all agree on this? The left does not deserve to win. When I say this, I don't mean the left shouldn't win, because I think it should win, and I want it to win, but I don't feel like the left deserves to win, in the sense that the way the left behaves is just begging for failure at every single twist and turn. Just fucking begging for it. And that's why the left has always failed throughout, throughout history. Almost, like, the left has almost always failed to, lost to fascism, right? Like, every time there's a big populist push for or for, like, leftism, or for fascism, fascism usually ends up winning, barring a few very specific circumstances. And it feels like that's what's happening now. Populism is getting really, really really big right now, right? You have, on both sides, you have, like, people like Donald Trump, you know, literal fascists. You had the, big populist push, with the Tories winning, like, by a landslide, like a crushing win in the UK. And then, in Poland, apparently there's some fascist uprising happening. You got fascism blowing up all over, but we also have leftist populism getting big as well. We got, you know, AOC, we got Bernie Sanders, you know, we got a pretty big, Milo Stewart is burning your bus. That's cringe. I might want to talk to them about that if I get a chance. We have a big populist push happening right now, and it's left versus right. Liberalism is dying. Liberal democracy is dying. People are realizing that the status quo isn't working out for them, and fascism has a solution to all their problems, and leftism has a solution to all their problems. And I'm sorry, but if you don't want fascism to win this, which it's already winning, Trump is president, and he's a fascist, or at least crypto-fascist, depending on how liberally you use the term fascist. I don't think you need to use the definition of fascist very liberally to say Trump is a fascist. If you want fascism to not win this, we gotta work our asses off. We gotta be very careful, and we gotta be diligent, and we gotta work. We gotta fucking work if we don't want fascism to win this populist, like, battle of ideas, if you want to call it that. And it's really, really fucking upsetting to me when I see people like Angie Speaks and Lottie Blix complaining about debate bros that do nothing for leftist discourse. Wasn't Angie Speaks around in 2016? I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Angie Speaks was around in 2016. Like, these lefty content creators? Hold on, what's their oldest video? Not really. Yeah, no, they weren't really making... They made content in 2018, not really. They weren't really making content back in, like, the peak of reactionary YouTube. So yes, I apologize. And the example of Angie Speaks doesn't work, but I know for a fact that some of these people complaining about white debate bros were around during 2016 and 2017 when most of their viewership was coming from like the fans of like Sargon, and they were coming to mass dislike their videos and leave hate comments before like Destiny came along and like almost single-handedly tore down reactionary YouTube, or like that the big like anti-SJW community as it stood back then. Like, do you want to go back to that? Is that what we have to do? Do we want to go back to that? Do you not remember? Have you been like too pampered by the last like 2 years of Breadtube being somewhat sustainable and having like an actual audience? Do you want to go back to how things used to be in 2016? Is that what you want? Guys, you do realize that like the only reason like Shoe on Head, for example, isn't doing what she did in 2016 and saying people shouldn't vote for Biden and saying Trump won't be that bad for a second term. Like, one of the biggest reasons she's not doing that, for example, is because Vosh is there to say, hey, guess what? And she's admitted this. Guess what? The problems that you have, the things you complain about in your videos, isn't feminism or progressivism. It's liberal, capitalist, bourgeoisie feminism. That wasn't around in 2016. People like Destiny and Vosh and me and whatnot weren't around in 2016. I mean, I was, and I was a reactionary. I know for a fact. All there was this wall of creators that were there to say, oh yeah, all the problems you have, that's with feminism and the SJWs, and Trump will fix it all. And I was like, makes sense to me, because they made good arguments, or what I thought were good arguments. But now there's leftists who, I don't know what you mean by pseudo-intellectual. I know she's at least somewhat at least somewhat quote tweeting Vosh as well as me. I'm sorry, but like, we cite every claim we make. We are not pseudo-intellectual. These are scientific organizations that we cite when we make these claims. So get the fuck out of here with that. But like, do you guys want to go back to that? Do you guys want the left to go back to just being absolutely crushed by the right? I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't know. I don't know. There is... I am willing to go out on a limb and say Breadtube, and particularly edgelord, like left, like debate bro Breadtube, is one of the only reasons that 2020 might not be a repeat of 2016. Because you guys remember how popular, like, I think fascism in America was stronger than it's been in a century in 2016. Like, populist fascism. Can we all agree on that? Like, how popular Trump got? Like how much support Trump got? Granted, he lost the popular vote, but like, how much reactionary Trump supporters like pushed, and they're still doing it now, but how much they pushed in 2016, like, yeah, more popular than pre-World War II. I wouldn't go that far. Maybe. It depends. It's hard to compare those because we don't really have, like, if the internet was around back then we would be able to make a claim, but here I don't know. Yeah, sorry, less than a century, but close to it, like 80 years. I don't know. I feel like we are on the verge of a massive populist, a fascist populist explosion, and I cannot stand seeing fellow lefties attacking some of the most effective figures within the left. It's really annoying, and I get that I'm somewhat contributing to this, like by talking about it on stream. But guys, come on, really? We can do better than this. Just, if you're a soft lefty, if you're not a big fan of the debate bro shit, just leave it alone. Just don't engage with it. Don't engage with it. Let us do our thing. We're de-radicalizing people. It's not like we're It's not like we're taking reactionaries and we're like making them think worker co-ops are cool, and now they say they're leftists, but they just hate trans people and stuff like that. Like, I'm not turning people into I'm not turning right-wingers into class reductionists and Nazguls. Like, one of the most common things that I discuss on my channel are pro-trans arguments, anti-racist arguments, just anti-fascism in general is like the main focus of my content. I rarely talk about class and capitalism bad. I mean, it comes up, but like most of my content is focused on like on more than class. So I don't know where the argument is that I'm just turning reactionaries into edgy bros that now just say the N-word, but they call themselves leftists and think that worker co-ops are cool. Like, I don't know. Listen, this whole anti-debate bro shit is fucking ridiculous. Get over yourselves. Do your own thing. If you don't like debate bro content, don't engage with it. But don't go fucking attacking debate bros, and don't pretend like the reason why so many people aren't reactionaries anymore isn't because people like Destiny tore apart the anti-SJW community back in 2017 and early 2018. Let's be real here. Let's be real here.